You're so sour. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ken Johnson. This really isn't a niche channel. This is what I call a live channel. And today, it's really going to be kind of an honor of a cousin of mine. She asked about sourdough. So this is for my cousin Pam. I hope you enjoy, and please try this recipe out. Alright, so this right here is my starter. I made this back, I don't know, 2019, 2018. It's made with sour cream that had active cultures and flour. You could use yogurt, you can use buttermilk, anything with live bacterial cultures. And then flour, and just leave it out. And I actually put on a heating pad to get it started, but you don't have to do that. I did, but that's my culture. Now I have a gravy spoon here. This isn't even a tablespoon. This is a gravy spoon, which is a lot bigger. I would say that is about a half cup of this. Now this has been in a refrigerator, so it's very stiff. It would normally be a lot looser, but when you're not using your starter for a long time, it's good to go ahead and put it in the refrigerator so that it'll stay fresh or stay alive. Whenever you take out from your starter culture, it's always good to replace it. So first thing I did is I put some whole milk in here, and that's about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of whole milk. And this right here is just a few spoonfuls of all-purpose flour. The reason why I use milk and why I think you should use more milk in your starter culture is the fact that it uses bacteria as one of the ingredients in sourdough, and milk is a great way to keep an active culture of bacteria in your sourdough. It's not just yeast, it is yeast and bacteria. With that all mixed up, I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator. Now I'm going to add 1.5 cups of milk to this. I use whole milk. Now we're just going to slowly stir this in and get it to where it's all incorporated as best we can. It'll be alright, we'll knead in the rest, but so if there's some lumps or whatever, don't worry about it, but try to break it up with your spoon, stir it in, break it with your spoon. If you slowly incorporate it and you're not trying to rush like I am for a video, you can do it just a little bit at a time, but I was trying to get this brushed and done because this is cold and I'm trying to make bread in a day. Normally what I would do if I'd had the forethought is done this last night and then let it sit out, and it would have came to room temp and it'd be ready today, but I didn't. Now I've added about a tablespoon of just a neutral cooking oil into this. Nothing special, but you do need the oil, and I like to add it in as soon as possible because the yeast needs some oil for their cell structures and all that, and so this right here will help them have a good fermentation. This right here is bread flour. This is enriched, unbleached bread flour from White Lily. I really like it. When I'm doing my sourdough starter, I always put all-purpose White Lily in there. In fact, the only reason why I have all-purpose White Lily is if my wife decides to make a cake every once in a while, or if I'm making bread. And so very rarely do we use all-purpose flour in our daily lives. I normally use White Lily self-rising flour for almost every single application I do. And then I keep a bag of this bread flour from when I'm making bread. This right here is 2 1/4 cup of flour. To that I'm adding about 1 teaspoon of sea salt. Stir well. Alright, I've probably mixed this for about 5 minutes, and you can see that there's little lumpy pieces still in there, but they're real small but stretchy, and it's tough, and you can not very easily stir it anymore. You can stir it, but it's about like trying to stir concrete setting up, and it almost has the look of concrete with maybe some type of rubber compound in it, and it feels rubbery a little bit. That's the gluten starting to form. So once I get to this stage, I let this sit. I put some plastic wrap over it. I put it into a warm oven, not hot but warm, and I'll let this sit for about an hour or two, maybe more. If you could let it sit overnight in a warming station, that would be perfect. But I want everything to wake up because it's been a refrigerator, the milk is cold, I've added salt. There's so much here going on that it needs time to recover and come up to temp. So this is not me kneading it, this is just me incorporating everything and getting everything started for it. I have not kneaded it yet, so we're going to let this set for 1-2 hours, maybe longer, who knows, but it's going to be covered in an oven, just going through its phases, acclimating, starting to build a colony back up, and doing this. Now, if you are lactose intolerant, or if you have an allergy to gluten, talk to your doctor first, but you may want to consider trying small amounts of sourdough that you make at home. Using this recipe, of course. And the reason why I say that is that research is coming out that sourdough helps people with wheat allergies, and also if you have any type of dairy allergy, that fermentation with milk helps with that. And so this sourdough might help you to get rid of your allergies. Again, do it after you talk with your doctor and with the recommendations of your doctor. I am not a medical professional. I've just read the research. You must take care of yourself. You must advocate for yourself at all times. Don't just do what somebody on YouTube says, but I am convinced that the research is showing something that is very compelling, and that the people that have said that it works for them, that there's something there going on. I don't know their backstories. These research papers normally don't tell all the backstories of the research subjects, so therefore I'm working off limited information, but it's the best information I can find. And like I said, it's research after research after research. It's not just one paper, but multiple papers all pointing to the same conclusion using different test subjects. And that's the reason why I'm even offering this up. So give it a try. Once you talk with your doctor and doctor okays it and tells you, maybe you need an EpiPen nearby, I don't know. But definitely give this a try. Well, I believe in being honest and transparent with my viewers, and so it is now midnight. I started this at 8 a.m. and it's just now getting to the point that's ready to work with, so I'm going to leave this to proof. I've got church tomorrow. When I come back, I'll actually start the next project, or next step in this project, where we'll be actually working the bread dough. Okay, so I've got a cast iron Dutch oven, ceramic coated, and inside is just a piece of parchment paper. I just cut it into a circle, a little bit bigger than the pot, and then I put a bunch of little slots or cuts in there. So I'm going to put this in here. Kind of goes in pretty easy. Put it back the way I had it. See, it goes in fairly easy. It don't have to be nothing special. This just keeps it from sticking to the bottom. And we'll get this ready, and now I'm going to show you what to do with the dough. But first things, we got to take off the rings, because you don't want to have any type of rings or anything when you mess with dough. Alright, the rings are off. You can see there. Hands are clean. Now, since yesterday, you can see this has really developed a netting to it. And don't worry about the helicopter, that's just sound of freedom. We got a ton of military bases around here. I can't do anything about helicopter sound. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get all this worked down, and then I'm going to start kneading it with my hands. And what I'm going to do is try to get it to where it's kind of spongy. You can do this on a floured table. I don't do that. But I get it all the way from the bowl, and then I'll just start working with my hands, and you just kind of work it to where I'll break it apart and stick it back together. Anything that you're doing that agitates the wheat will create gluten strands. And so what I'm going to do is just basically be working with one hand basically, and have the other one scooping around. My hand's going to be covered up, so I can't. I forgot the little stand for my camera. But what I'm going to do is work this. It's a very wet dough. You can tell it's a very wet dough. And you want your dough to be wet because this is a wild strain of yeast. So it's not been bred to produce a lot of gas. And this has been sitting in the refrigerator now for the starter culture for a while. So it took, a good day and a half to get to this stage. Now it's up to this stage. Had I let it out a day or two before, we'd already be at this stage yesterday. But I didn't properly plan. That's my fault. And when you get a wild strain of bacteria and a wild strain of yeast, you really don't know how they're going to behave until you've cooked a few batches, and then you'll realize that. Now this strain, and I've noticed it with a few other strains, you can actually proof your bread for like a day or two in the refrigerator. And sometimes I'll do that, like if I'm low on space, or I'm just trying to develop flavor and I want to have that really good sourdough flavor, I'll put, after I do what I'm doing, go to the next step, which is right there, that pot, or that Dutch oven. I'll actually put it in the refrigerator, and I'll let it sit covered for, I don't know, day, 2 days, week, whatever. And, after I punch it down, it's not really punching down when you do sourdough. You just kind of pick at it, knock it down that way. But when you punch it down and then it builds back up again, it has a intense flavor, but you can't do that with regular bread, not with regular bread yeast. But you can do that with the wild strains a lot of time. And the good thing about it is it has the bacteria in there. So like I said before, if you have any type of allergy, let's say to wheat or to milk, like milk proteins, lactose, any of that, this fermentation process is believed to break down a lot of stuff and actually make it where it's digestible. And some studies are now researching whether or not you can actually build up immunity to some of these foods that you're allergic to, but nothing is concise on that. But it seems to be that once you've done about a day or 2 day ferment using sourdough, that the milk and the flour has been broken down enough that most people with allergies are able to eat it with no problem, no allergic reactions. But again, talk to your doctor. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually start working this and get it into a ball. I'm going to get it into a tight ball. I'm trying to work that gluten up so it's nice and spongy. I'm going to get out all this air I can, because this is not the first proof. This is just to get it up to the stage where I can do my proofing. So that's a little something different that I do with my sourdough that I don't do with regular bread, and that's because you're dealing with a different process of fermentation. I'll see you in a second. Okay, I kneaded this for about 5 minutes, but it's already starting to break down the flour structures, all the proteins, everything in there. And so it's not wanting to come together like a normal bread dough because it just waited a little bit too long. That's easy to fix. So I'm going to put a half cup of my bread flour in here, and that should provide enough residual gluten and everything to get it back to where it needs to be. Alright, I just kind of wanted to show you how I'm kneading this. So you can see that sticking to my hands, but when I actually take it and pull it back a little bit, it just pulls right off. It wasn't this way about 10 minutes ago. You do have to do a bigger knead or longer knead for it, but the dough is now becoming softer. It's getting stretchier. This is where if I had a KitchenAid, this would work better. But that's also a reason why I don't like doing bench with this, because this is a wet dough. This is a high hydration dough. And so I'm going to keep kneading this probably for about another 10-15 minutes. And when it starts pulling away from my hands, kind of like it's doing now, and cleaning my hands, then it's getting about there. I'll then flour it after I form it into a ball and set it into the cast iron Dutch oven. So you'll see that, but see, it's pulling away from my hands. So that's letting you know the gluten strands are forming. It's getting very rubbery, very hard. My arms are burning. Again, a KitchenAid would be perfect, but you know, if you don't have KitchenAid, this is how you do it. Okay, you can see I got a sticky gummy ball still, but it's kind of holding its shape a little bit. And if you have any stuck on your hands, you can just take a little piece of the dough and it'll just pull right off. That's the beauty of it. It won't stick to your skin very long if you'll just have there's enough tension in the dough that actually will pull apart from your hands. So basically you knead it until your arms feel like they're about to fall off, and then knead about 5-10 minutes longer. This is about 1/8 of a cup of flour. Probably won't even use that much. Just a little bit of flour, not much. Now I'm going to form this into a ball. As you can tell, it kind of flattens out. It's not like a big giant round ball that it's a high water content dough. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lid this with the cover, and then after I lid it with the cover right here, just put that in there, that's going to sit for until it doubles. In my case, I'm about to cook supper. I need the oven, so it's probably going to sit at least 4 hours, maybe longer, before I do this. As you can see, it's a 7-quart Dutch oven that I'm using. I could get away with a little smaller. If I did, I'd make the walls a little bit higher up, and that would lead to a much taller bread when I'm done. But I want it to be roughly about this size, so 7-quart is fine. For me, it'd probably be about 4 to 6 hours from now. Next time I film something, but it'll be just a second for you. Okay, so time to check in on our bread. So we're going to take this off. Be very careful laying this because this lid is very heavy. Now it's grown. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to punch it down just a little bit and just kind of pick at it what you're doing. And that's just to bust up the bubbles. Nothing special. Just it busts up the bubbles and allows you to do the proofing part. Okay. Alright, now that's done. We're going to let this come back up. The reason why you do it this way is that you're not trying to just press it down, puff it down. It gives it bigger holes and gives it that artisanal look that you normally get in sourdough. Okay, so we're going to take the lid off. Easily lower this very heavy lid. You can see that's kind of big. I've got serrated blade, and so what I'm doing is I'm just cutting a line down the center. You don't want to cut in, you want to cut under that layer right there. Alright, so you're actually cutting at an angle. I'm overdoing it, but you're cutting at an angle. That serrated blade will work just fine. Alright, now we'll put this back on. I've got the oven preheating to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And once it gets to that temperature, we'll put in for 20 minutes. Then we'll take the lid off, reduce it down to 400, and then we'll go for about another 15 minutes. There we go, it's in the oven. Now you see that it's just kind of pale and everything. That's normal. Now we're going to put on the crust. Now this goes in at 400 degrees for another 15 minutes, may go a little bit longer, but that's where you get your crust at. So the whole reason why we lit it with this lid that's real heavy is you'll notice when I lifted it up there was steam. So you were creating a lot of steam, and that allowed the top to be soft and rise and basically created a mini convection oven. Now we're actually toasting off the bread, drying it out, and cooking it. Alright, it's done and ready to go. Now just take it out as soon as this pot cools down a little bit. So the easiest way to get this out is just put a plate over the top and just use a spatula and get between the bread and the or actually get between the paper and the pot. It'll come right out. So it comes out like this, and now you can just kind of lift it up and scoop the paper out from underneath. Fresh baked sourdough bread. There you have it. So when cutting this, use a serrated knife. This is a bread knife, and then that'll allow you to make good cuts. Now as a tip, you're supposed to let this cool completely down before you cut it, but really, who has that kind of self-control? Okay, so the wife has already done a taste test. She said she liked it, said that it's really soft, little bit more sour than normal, but that's because I had a little bit longer ferment. But now it's time for me to taste it and see what I think. It's soft. It doesn't have the big, giant holes in the crumb. It has a very soft, delicate crumb, which is good. This is dangerous. I got Amish butter on here because if you know, you know. But all in all, good batch. Give this recipe a try. If you have one of the, like a razor blade or something, that'd be better than the serrated blade. But I have a serrated blade. And most people, they have at least a steak knife at the house. So, you know, I'm not selling this at a market to customers. I'm just making something at the house for me to eat. But as I said originally, my cousin had asked me how to make sourdough bread. KitchenAid would be wonderful for this. This is definitely a KitchenAid recipe if I ever saw one. But with that, please let me know how do you do your sourdough? Do you do it differently? If you make this, please let me know. Like, share, comment, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.